All right, first exercise is the lat pull down. Again, great exercise, but things can go wrong with this. So typically what I see people do the most wrong is bringing that right behind the head. Notice as I do that, I almost have to stick my chin out forward. So what this does is put a fair amount of strain on the neck, which again, I have seen neck injuries from this. And it puts a little bit more stress actually into those shoulders as well. And I can feel that in my left one right now, which is recovering from an injury. So the other thing I tend to see people do, and the easy fix, of course, right, for that part, is bringing this in front. But even when people bring that in front, I will often see people kind of hike their shoulders to help pull that bar down. It's okay if your shoulders move, but we don't want to hike them up. Oftentimes that means the weight is just too darn heavy. Do try to also make sure that your hands are evenly spaced. If you can get them wide, if that feels good on your shoulders, that's where you want them to be. All right, next exercise is the hanging leg raise. Great abdominal one, again, if done correctly. Sometimes you just want to kind of hang here. So as you're setting yourself up, what I often see people do incorrectly is that they A, hike their shoulders when they're going into this position, B, arch their back right from the get-go, and then as they go to lift their legs, their back arches even more, or sometimes I'll even see a little swing, which sure you'll feel that in your abs, but you sure as heck are going to feel that in your back as well, which we really want to avoid. So oftentimes it's because we just don't even think about the position. So engage, lock in those abs, and start with that little lift. If you find that you are arching away from the little pad, go ahead and make it a little easier on yourself. Start with bent knees. If that's still too much, go ahead and do one knee and then the other knee. And if that's too much, you can do an option on the floor where you bring your knees in like a dead bug to help target the same area. Next one is the treadmill. And the number one thing that I see done incorrectly is hanging on to those handles. Now, if you have some loss of balance and you need to hang on to these so that you don't fall over, please by all means do so. I'd much rather see you getting some movement than not holding on and falling off and causing a whole host of other issues. But if you do not need these for support, you are much better off letting those arms hang and move naturally. So if you notice as I'm walking, you get a little arm swing going. And what that does is actually rotate your trunk. It rotates the torso in general, and it rotates those hips so that when you hang on, number one, I often see some neck tension going on, but now we're losing some of that rotation. So everything is tightening up. And this is where I tend to see things like back injuries and hip injuries just because of that one little thing. The other thing I commonly see is people keeping it at a 0% incline. Not the end of the world, certainly, to do that, but if you are truly trying to mimic the road, you actually want it at a 1% grade, and that truly mimics flat. Back extension is actually a great one for the low back muscles and those glutes and hamstrings. So with this though, what you want to make sure of is that this pad, that's the most important thing, is hitting in the proper place. So I'm actually set up correctly right now, and it is below my pelvis. That is so that I don't actually strain too much in the spine itself, and we can concentrate on using some of those smaller muscles, and then like I said, the glutes and hamstrings. And then when you come down, you want to make sure you're not rounding all the way again so that you're not putting lots of force through the spine. That's the key. We want to work the back muscles without injuring the back. Last exercise is the leg press. Great one for those big muscles of the thighs. Here's what I see go wrong with this one. Oftentimes, people will start out with the weights way too close to their body. Right now, I'm set up in a good position. I'm at about 90, maybe a little bit more. Not that you can't go a little bit deeper than this, but especially if you're first starting, it tends to be too much. And the more weight you put on it, then the more force you are applying in a position where there's already force on the knee. So you need to be very careful about that. And then the second thing I often see is people just force and hyperextending, locking into those knees. So it's okay to use force, but you want to make sure that you don't, again, put too much stress on the knees, which is what this one's all about there.